close your eyes for a moment and imagine this, a vast, infinite field of possibilities, yet somehow life keeps bringing you the same patterns, the same disappointments, the same emptiness, dressed in different clothes. Maybe you felt it, that subtle ache in the background of your days, that quiet question that keeps whispering, why does nothing truly change? You've read the books, spoken the words, repeated the affirmations, you've tried visualizing, you've tried believing. But deep down, something still feels stuck, frozen in place, as if reality itself refuses to listen, and perhaps a part of you wonders if the problem is you, if you're broken, if you're doing it wrong. But what if I told you, you are not broken, you are not flawed, you are not failing, you are simply operating from the wrong biological platform, not a mental failure, not a spiritual failure, but a biological one. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in epigenetics, revealed a truth so profound that it changes everything. His research showed that 95% of your daily reality isn't created by your conscious mind, but by the subconscious programs running silently beneath the surface. Programs that were downloaded when you were too young to choose. Programs written by repetition, by observation, by emotional imprints that became your invisible blueprint for life. It's not that affirmations don't work. It's not that visualizations are flawed. The truth is, your biology isn't listening to your words. Your biology listens to frequency, to vibration, to the electromagnetic field of your beliefs. Not the sentences you speak, but the energy you embody. Dr. Joe Dispenza complements this understanding perfectly. He teaches that when your thoughts and emotions are out of sync, when the brain and heart are not speaking the same language, your electromagnetic field collapses. And when that field collapses, the quantum field cannot respond. And so, reality repeats over and over and over again. This is the hidden reason why so many spiritual seekers feel exhausted, frustrated, hopeless. It's not because they don't deserve change. It's not because they aren't trying hard enough. It's because repetition isn't about convincing the universe. Repetition is about installing a new biological operating system. It's about teaching your cells, your nervous system, your entire electromagnetic field that a new reality is not just possible, but familiar, safe, real. And this is where the shift begins. In this journey, I will guide you through a 5-day neurological and energetic protocol, a simple yet powerful practice that rewires the very chemistry of your being, that shifts the frequency you send out, and therefore shifts what life reflects back to you. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is biology. This is quantum science. This is spiritual law, woven into the fabric of your cells. And as we walk together through this process, you may begin to feel something profound awaken within you, a remembrance, a truth, a knowing that the power to change has always been inside you, hidden, not because it's far, but because it's been drowned beneath layers of outdated programming. And now, it's time to rise. It's time to remember who you truly are. There is something profoundly humbling and at the same time liberating about realizing this. Most of what you call your life isn't actually being chosen by you, not consciously, not intentionally. Beneath the surface, beyond your conscious desires, runs an invisible script, a program, a loop, a biological and energetic echo of your past, replaying itself into your present and projecting itself into your future. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking discovery brings this truth into focus with absolute clarity. From the moment you were born until about the age of 7, your mind existed in a state of pure absorption. Everything you saw, everything you felt, every emotion, every word, every energetic imprint was downloaded directly into your subconscious mind. No filters, no questions, no choice. And after those first 7 years, that subconscious continued learning, not from logic, but from repetition, from emotional patterns, from the familiar rhythms of pain, love, fear, or safety. Without even realizing, your biology learned what to expect from life. It learned whether love feels safe or dangerous, whether abundance feels possible or unreachable, whether being seen means connection or rejection. And here lies the paradox. No matter how much your conscious mind dreams of something new, if your subconscious script still holds the vibration of the past, your biology will quietly, relentlessly recycle the same experiences over and over again. You may try to manifest love, but if your cells are wired for abandonment, the chemistry of your body will quietly attract, expect, or even create situations that confirm that old story. You may long for abundance, but if your nervous system has memorized scarcity as familiar, then no amount of desire will override that frequency. It's not because you're weak. It's not because the universe is ignoring you. It's simply biology doing what it was designed to do. Repeat the known, protect the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. The subconscious doesn't care if the pattern is joyful or miserable. It only cares whether it feels known. And what feels known feels safe to the nervous system. This is why change can feel so frustrating, why breakthroughs often seem temporary, why moments of hope dissolve back into the old familiar reality. Because without changing the subconscious frequency, without interrupting that cellular memory loop, the body, the mind, and the energy field will default back to the programmed autopilot. This is the purpose behind the 5-day repetition, not to force the universe into compliance, not to beg or plead with some external force, but to introduce, day after day, a new coherent frequency to install, through feeling, through presence, through vibration, a new energetic signature that begins to override the old program. And there is something important you must know. No amount of conscious effort, no amount of trying harder, no amount of repeating words without embodiment will ever override the autopilot of the subconscious if the biology isn't aligned. This isn't a failure of will. It's simply a law of how the human system operates. And yet, within this truth lives the key, the most beautiful key, because the moment you learn how to introduce a coherent frequency to your subconscious, not through struggle, but through intentional embodied repetition, reality itself begins to shift. Quietly at first, gently, then like a river that finds a new path, the flow of your life starts moving in an entirely new direction. There is a profound misunderstanding, one that quietly lives beneath much of the modern spiritual search. It whispers, if I just try harder, if I just repeat it more, if I just want it enough, surely it will come. And so many step into a cycle of exhausting effort, of pushing, of striving, of mentally forcing affirmations, visualizations, and intentions, while secretly wondering why the change never fully arrives. But here is the truth that both liberates and awakens. As Dr. Bruce Lipton's research reveals, belief is not a thought. It is not a sentence. It is not a phrase repeated with the lips while the body trembles in fear or doubt. Belief is a chemically embodied state. It lives in the nervous system. It lives in the vibration of your cells. It speaks not through language, but through the electromagnetic signals your heart and brain emit with every breath. Greg Braden's insights deepen this understanding even further. The human heart, your heart, generates an electromagnetic signal 5,000 times stronger than the brain. It means this: your heart is the primary broadcaster of your reality. It is not what you think. It is what your entire being feels as real that shapes the world around you. This is why trying harder does not work. Because when effort is rooted in inner incoherence, when the mind says, I am abundant, but the heart vibrates, I am afraid, the signal being broadcast is not the words, but the fear, the doubt, the old familiar frequency. And yet, the beauty of this realization is immense, because it means change does not come from force, but from installation, from repetition, not as desperate effort, but as gentle recalibration. The 5-day repetition acts as a biological software patch. Every day as the new frequency is introduced, not just in thought, but in felt experience, the body begins to shift. The nervous system starts learning a new language. the cells begin receiving a new signal. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the new signal starts to override the old. It stops being something external you are trying to reach and starts becoming something internal that feels familiar, safe, natural. And here lies the most humbling truth of all. You do not attract what you consciously want. You attract what your biology, your subconscious, your electromagnetic field believes is safe, believes is home, believes is familiar. This is why effort alone exhausts, because when the nervous system is holding onto an old pattern, no amount of mental willpower can override it. But when you shift the signal, when belief becomes embodied, coherent, felt, reality has no choice but to mirror that back to you. Not because the universe suddenly favors you, but because, at the most fundamental level, life is simply responding to the frequency you are broadcasting. In every moment, with every breath, there is something quietly cruel, almost invisible, that happens inside the mind of someone who longs deeply for change. It starts with hope, a spark, a desire. Maybe this time it will happen, but quickly, that desire turns into craving, into chasing, into a constant restless hunger that whispers, "Why is it not here yet? What else must I do?" This is the dopamine illusion, the biological trap that turns wanting into suffering. The moment the nervous system enters the state of "I want," it simultaneously broadcasts the frequency of "I don't have." Every pulse of craving, every surge of anticipation floods the body with dopamine. And while dopamine can feel like motivation, it is inherently unstable. It creates peaks and crashes, highs and lows. The more you want, the more your biology anchors into the experience of not having. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research illuminates this with painful clarity. Elevated emotions, when disconnected from coherent intention, push the brain into chaotic wave patterns. Instead of opening the gateway to the quantum field, the mind collapses into noise, into dissonance, into a vibrational signal that the field cannot respond to, except by reflecting back more longing, more chasing, more waiting. This is why so many spiritual seekers fall into a cycle of momentary hope, followed by deep frustration. Because the nervous system, conditioned by years, sometimes decades of scarcity, rejection, or fear, interprets wanting as danger, as instability, as a threat to the familiar. But something miraculous happens when the nervous system is stabilized, when the body learns to move from dopamine-driven chasing into serotonin-anchored being. Serotonin is not the chemical of craving. It is the chemical of presence, of contentment, of grounded safety. When this shift occurs, the body stops screaming, "I want," and starts whispering, "It is here." And in that whisper, the signal to the quantum field changes entirely. This is the sacred role of repetition, not as a desperate plea to the universe, but as a methodical rewiring of synaptic pathways. Neuroscience proves this. When a new emotional and energetic state is practiced consistently across consecutive days, the brain shifts, the nervous system adapts. What was once unfamiliar becomes normal. What was once fantasy starts feeling like home. This is how the body learns that abundance is not a fantasy, that love is not a dream, that healing is not a future event, but a present state. The repetition, day after day, is not about forcing an outcome. It's about teaching every cell, every neural pathway, every energetic fiber of your being, that the new reality is not something to chase, it is something to embody, something to become. And when that shift happens, the chasing stops, the waiting dissolves, the field begins to mirror you, not as someone in longing, but as someone who already vibrationally is. There is a truth, silent, often unnoticed, but devastatingly real. A biological law that governs every cell of your being. Dr. Bruce Lipton states it clearly. A cell cannot be in growth and protection at the same time. It's not philosophy, it's not theory, it's how life operates at the most fundamental level. And this is where so many dreams quietly collapse. Because even as the conscious mind whispers words of love, abundance, and healing, if the subconscious is vibrating danger, if the nervous system is trapped in fight, flight, or freeze, the body enters survival mode. And in survival, growth shuts down. Expansion shuts down. Manifestation becomes biologically impossible. It is an invisible sabotage, a contradiction that lives not in what you say, but in what your body feels. You may repeat, "I am worthy." You may visualize wealth, love, or freedom, but if the subconscious is still broadcasting, it's not safe. The signal being sent into the quantum field is not the words, but the fear, the protection, the contraction, and the field. The universe only ever mirrors the dominant frequency. Not the surface desire, not the fleeting thought, but the embodied signal, the emotional blueprint encoded deep within the subconscious. This is why so many feel exhausted, hopeless, as if they are knocking on a door that will never open, because the nervous system, still wired for survival, still holding the imprint of past wounds, past disappointments, past traumas, is sending a constant message of protect, hide, contract. And here lies the great misunderstanding of spiritual manifestation. Words without coherence are noise. Visualizations without nervous system safety are empty pictures. Affirmations spoken from a place of fear become echoes, lost in the void. The 5-day ritual is not mental repetition. It is not a performance for the universe. It is a recalibration, a biological realignment, a sacred process of turning off the survival response and activating growth pathways at the deepest cellular level. Slowly, gently, the body begins to remember what safety feels like, what openness feels like, what receiving feels like. And in that remembrance, something extraordinary happens. The subconscious stops fighting. The nervous system stops defending. The electromagnetic field begins to emit a coherent, stable signal, not of desperation, but of alignment, of harmony, of readiness. It is not about forcing reality to change. It is about becoming the frequency that makes change inevitable. The work is not external. It never was. The work is inside the field of your own body, inside the resonance of your own heart. And when that field shifts, the entire fabric of reality has no choice but to respond. There is a language, older than word, older than thought, a language spoken not by the mouth, but by the field, not by sentences, but by vibration. And whether you are aware of it or not, this language is what your cells have always been listening to. This is the quantum language of belief. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research makes it undeniable. Your cells are not reacting to what you say. They are responding to what you feel as true, to the electromagnetic signal of your beliefs, not your wishes, not your hopes, but the signal that radiates from the coherence or incoherence between your thoughts, emotions, and nervous system. This is why so many affirmations fall flat, why visualizations without embodiment become nothing more than pretty daydreams. Because if the words are, "I am abundant," but the field is, "I am afraid," the cells are deaf to the words. They hear only the frequency, only the vibration. And here, Neville Goddard's timeless teaching aligns perfectly. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not the thought, not the concept, the feeling. Because without the felt sense, without the nervous system believing it's real, repetition becomes nothing more than noise in the field. This is why most spiritual practices fail when they rely solely on the mind. Because the universe, the quantum field, your own biology, are not listening to sentences. They are listening to signals. Signals made of tone, intention, presence, and embodiment. It's not about what you are saying. It's about how your nervous system receives what you are saying, whether it trembles in disbelief or relaxes into the familiar warmth of, "This is who I am now." This is what the 5-day process is truly designed for. It is not a mental exercise. It is an energetic recalibration, a vibrational immersion, a way of weaving thought, feeling, and embodiment into one coherent message that both your cells and the quantum field can understand. When tone aligns with intention, when breath aligns with presence, when words are not just spoken but felt as real, the electromagnetic field expands. The cells begin to change their chemistry. The body starts producing different proteins. The nervous system shifts from contraction to openness, from fight to creation. And in that state, reality listens, because the universe is not a distant force responding to your demands. It is a mirror reflecting the sustained signal you are broadcasting, moment after moment, breath after breath. At the very core of everything you've heard lies one simple yet profound truth. You do not change reality by thinking. You change reality by upgrading the frequency of your biology, because the universe, life itself, is not responding to the surface of your words. It is responding to the electromagnetic signal of who you are at the deepest level. Dr. Bruce Lipton reminds us, the moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. And with that shift, everything begins to move. Not because the outside world has suddenly changed, but because the lens through which you experience reality, the frequency you emit, the signal you broadcast, has been rewritten. Neville Goddard echoes this perfectly. Reality is not a reflection of your fleeting desires. It is a perfect mirror of your sustained, felt assumption. Not what you wish for occasionally, but what your nervous system believes over time to be true, to be safe, to be home. This is the hidden truth so few ever truly realize. The universe does not respond to commands, it responds to coherence. It responds to vibrational alignment, to the harmony between thought, emotion, body, and field. And this is the purpose of the 5-day practice, to move beyond spiritual performance, to move beyond desperate wishing, and to enter a space where what you repeat is no longer just mental effort, but becomes a biological activation, a new template, a living, breathing blueprint of a different reality. When, for 5 consecutive days, the same coherent signal is introduced, the subconscious starts to soften. The nervous system begins to trust. The cells start releasing old chemistry and producing a new one. What once felt unfamiliar starts feeling normal. What once felt distant starts feeling near. The future you were chasing begins to feel like now. And so, it becomes clear. This is not magic. This is not superstition. This is not some mystical exception to the rules of life. This is applied neuroscience. This is quantum biology. This is spiritual law woven into the fabric of your cells, your heart, your field. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is this: you were never broken, never behind, never forgotten by life. You were simply running an old program, an old signal, an old frequency. And now you hold the key, not to force life to bend to your will, but to become the vibration of the life you've always known deep down was meant to be yours. Because when the field shifts within, the world outside has no choice but to shift as well. And if this message resonated with you, if somewhere deep inside you felt that quiet knowing that this is the moment to shift, then let this space be more than just a video. Let it be a living field of transformation. I would love to know, from what city, from what part of this beautiful world, are you tuning into this frequency? Share it in the comments. Let's weave this field together, a field of coherence, of presence, of transformation. And tell me, what is the first step, the first small, powerful shift that you are ready to embody in these next 5 days? What is the new frequency, the new reality that you are choosing to install into your life? If this message brought you clarity, if it touched something real inside you, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, because here we continue walking this path together, step by step, breath by breath, frequency by frequency. Leave your comment, your reflection, your intention, not just as words, but as an energetic declaration to the field, because every time you share, every time you speak it, you are already beginning to shift. You are already becoming the new signal, the new reality.